why don't the boys have to take a don't murder girls class?
Hello everyone, so this is going to be an overall review for the third and fourth episode of Velma that just dropped by. So in this episode, Velma is thinking about her sexuality because she just kissed Daphne and they were going pretty heavy at one another anyway. So the next day at school, the principal is telling all the girls that they need to prepare themselves for the self-defense classes. And Velma, being Velma, she says that instead of teaching girls to protect themselves, they should teach guys to not attack them. And I just sort of noticed after watching this show so far is that all the other characters are like kind of really decent and enjoyable to watch, but it's Velma. Every time Velma opens her mouth, it's like you have to roll your eyes and really hard. They go back of your skull. It's like everything that she says no one really cares about and everyone hates her. Not only the audience watching this show, the people inside the show also hate her. And this is sort of my conspiracy theory that she is made to be really dislikable, that it might be her character arc, and that will definitely make her character a lot more better, that she has to realize that she's most of the time kind of a jerk and no one really likes her because of that. And I think Velma is the kind of character that just assumes that people don't like her because she's like fat and ugly, but it's not that. I think it's just her inner self, and I think that will come to play later on in the episodes, that it's not the outside of the person that matters, it's the inside. And in Velma's case, she's sort of ugly on the outside and ugly on the inside. Anyways, so after that, Velma and Daphne sort of confront one another in the girls' washroom, and they're not able to like communicate with one another, and they can't confess their feelings to one another, and instead they get mad at one another. And there's also a tournament going on outside for some reason to find the most weakest girl out there, and Daphne and Velma being mad at one another, they really want to beat the other person. And the competition starts, and Velma and Daphne are beating their opponents one by one, and before their turn, when Daphne and Velma has to fight one another, Velma goes and sees Daphne at the washroom once more and try to resolve their issue. And then Daphne says that she can't really be with Velma because there's an issue, and then Daphne's friends sort of come in, and Velma just assumes that Daphne doesn't want to be with her because Velma is not popular. Well, after assuming that, Velma tries to attack Daphne, but she's able to defend herself. And then they are in the tournament, and Velma and Daphne had to fight one another, but before they can fight one another, Velma takes out Daphne's diary and then she starts reading from it, and then she tells everyone that Daphne has mental health issues and that she's not perfect and therefore should not be popular, and that is supposed to make Daphne feel vulnerable, and therefore Velma will win the tournament. But this definitely doesn't go as Velma planned, because everyone is mad at Velma because she's reading from Daphne's diary. And it's kind of really ironic because Velma is always telling that guys are really toxic and then everyone around her is toxic, but she's the most toxic person here because Daphne in her own version rejects Velma because she's not popular, so she decides to hurt Daphne by reading her diary out loud, which is like, it's one of the really pettiest thing you could do. And Velma is like really hateable in this moment, and I think this is probably exactly what showrunners wants us to think about Velma right now. She is definitely not a good character, she's definitely toxic, and she will probably learn her lessons. I hope she does, because she's definitely not doing herself any favors right now. Anyway, so everyone cheers for Daphne, and Daphne ends up beating Velma really easily. While all of that is happening, Norville is at prison trying to interrogate Fred, and Fred tells him that the last time that he saw Velma's mother was at his house when she pulls up into the driveway, but he doesn't really remember anything more than that. And Norville tells about what happened to Velma. And Velma is bummed out because she thinks that it's a dead end and that Fred might actually be innocent. And then Norville says that isn't it actually comforting to see a rich white guy get wrongly convicted for once, and Velma is like, I'm too bummed out to be happy about that. And yeah, I mean, this show definitely hates men, and it's their go-to joke to make when they run out of jokes or when they reach a writer's block. Daphne and Velma meet again, and Daphne explains to Velma that she has abandonment issues after she's looking into the case of her parents that abandoned her, so she has those issues, and that's why she can't be in a relationship with Velma, and so they should be friends instead. Oh, and back at the prison, there's a riot and all the prisoners escape, including Friend, but it's not really necessary to mention it because they all get caught anyway. Well, there's one prisoner that manages to escape, and that might come into play into the future episodes, but for now, Fred is back into prison. And this is where the third episode ends. The fourth episode starts with a flashback where Velma is explaining how she is not like the other girls and how she's quirky. And at the school they're talking about how the serial killer is targeting only the hottest girls, and because they don't really have the budget to protect all the girls, so they're only going to protect the top 5 hottest girls in the school. And Velma thinks that the 2 white police officers cannot make the list, so it falls on to her to make the list instead. And Velma does not want to make the list because she does not want to objectify women, and Fred is also released from the prison, so Velma goes to meet Fred and asks him to make the list, which he makes really easily. And it's really weird because Fred is meeting with Velma because it's like Velma was the reason why Fred went to jail, and he's like really casually meeting with Velma, which really doesn't make any sense, but he's probably really dumb to understand because he's a guy and all guys are dumb, and that's why he's meeting with her right after he came out of prison and meeting the woman who was solely responsible for putting him in there. Velma takes the list to the police officers, and the police officers think that it would be much more efficient if they make the hot girls look ugly, like Velma. So now it falls on to Velma to make the popular hot girls look ugly just like her. And Velma is happy about it because now she has the opportunity to remove the internalized misogyny from these women. And then Velma teaches them how to be like her. Basically, don't shower, don't shave, don't comb your hair, and just basically be overall really unhygienic and unclean, and that's how you become like Velma. And Velma fails at that because the girls explain to them that this is not internalized misogyny like Velma keeps saying, that Velma is slut shaming them. And not all women dress the way they do for men, they just do it because they like it, and that not all women are like Velma, which is a great point, and that gives Velma much to think about. And what's the result of all that thinking? The next day she dresses up as a clown elf. Yup. That's her conclusion. Norval and Daphne are investigating a mystery, and they go to some crystal caves, and Daphne has a flashback much like Velma's at the beginning of the episode, which explains that Daphne is also really quirky and crazy and dangerous, and Norval realizes that he can't be like Daphne, so his only option is to move on from Velma, which is like, good for you, man, you deserve better. I mean, no one deserves Velma, not even Hitler. And that's where the fourth episode ends. Oh, and I'm editing this video right now, and I just realized that I forgot to mention a subplot of Fred falling in love with Velma, the woman responsible for getting him shot, then arrested, and for the public humiliation, and then thrown into jail for. And then Fred confesses his love to Velma. And guess what happens next? She rejects him. Fred may still be alive in this show, but his soul just died. This woman has destroyed my man Fred. God rest his soul in heaven with all the generic white guys in PC shows like these. Rest in peace. Amen. And when you think about what is a Scooby-Doo show, for me it's about solving mysteries and a little bit about horror and monsters and whatnot. And this show is definitely not that. In the entire third and the fourth episodes, there wasn't really any kind of mystery solving. It was mostly about Velma and her issues with misogyny and women and their rights and how men are bad. I would say actually 20% of these episodes were mystery solving related, where Norville and Daphne are going and actually doing some mystery solving work, and the rest of the 80% of the episodes were Velma dealing with men's issues, misogyny and this and that. And you have to realize like this is a mystery solving show. It's about monsters, horror, and solving those mysteries. And this show has become about misogyny and delivering the message. And I will say this again, this I don't think is the worst show ever, but whenever this gets about the message and about teaching people, then it definitely is really irritating and annoying. And I don't think the rest of the characters are like that, but it's Velma, and Velma is the main character, and she's always preaching about the message. And I don't think anyone's going to enjoy watching a show where it pauses for every 5 seconds and it tells you how much this show hates you and expects you to like it regardless. Like you're a filthy garbage of a person but still like this show. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for today, and if there are new episodes I will be sure to review them, and for now I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye.